Bobby Buck Show, where we interview the up-and-coming artists, entrepreneurs, and movers and shakers.
All right, y'all. Here we are here for the Bobby Buck Show. And we're on a new platform right now called Meeting. And if y'all like this platform, y'all let me know, and I can get you introduced to it. But right now, today, I'm going to be talking with Mr. Melvin Ishmael Johnson, and he has a play coming up, and I wanted him to explain to y'all exactly what it's about. But it's called Soldier to Soldier, and I've been knowing Mr. Melvin Ishmael Johnson for quite a while, and he always got some great, extraordinary writing that he puts together for people to be involved with these plays. So I want to go ahead and introduce Mr. Melvin Ishmael Johnson. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
All right.
Yeah,
right.
So we got Soldier to Soldier coming up. Here's a little glimpse of it. Soldier to Soldier. It's a play about veterans and Skid Row and the homeless. It deals with all of that. We open this coming Friday, November the 15th at 8 o'clock at the Blue Door Theater. That's up in Venice. And come on out and check us out. We'll get you more information about
it. Okay. And how long did it take you to come up with the script for this play?
Off and on, I've been working on this script for a number of years and stuff like that, because I've been working in that Skid Row area off and on since 2006. And we started training military veterans for stage manager's job with the local community theaters. One of the first theater companies that are trained veterans stage managers was the Roby Theater Company, So I've always been interested with so many veterans that's among the homeless, not only just in Skid Row, but all over LA County.
Right. Well, the play suggests military veterans could be instrumental in redirecting military budget allocation. Elaborate on this solution or any aspect of the work.
Yeah, well, I look at military veterans as the key to solving the homeless problem, not only out here in Los Angeles, but all across the United States as a whole. Because I think we should make the homeless problem the homeless veterans problem. And the reason that you want to do that is because if you look at the overall budget of the United States of America, you see that half of the budget go into the military.
Right.
And leaving the other 50% to deal with all of the other economic problems that you have in the United States of America. And this is why we're suffering. There's so much of the funds and stuff is going into the military. So the only group that can impact the military budget that is military veterans. So right. I feel that the social service organizations, the religious organizations, they must ride the military veterans they should take their particular projects that they're working on and ride the military veterans into the military budget. You got to make sure, because that's the only way that you can penetrate the military budget. And then keep in mind that you have military veterans in every state, and most families got some kind of connection with a military veteran. Whether it's World War II, the Iraqi conflict, Desert Storm, or what we're dealing with now. And then in most cases where you see these homeless veterans, they have been, they enter the military as young men and they get involved in warfare and they get traumatized. And then they come back over here trying to adjust to their community. So that's why it's so important to look at this aspect. The military, you're still responsible for these young men that you traumatize. Now the key is that knowing that the military veterans is the one that can open the door into the military budget. The next step is to get these social service organizations to work with military veterans, and ride in together, to get their funds, to get a portion of funding their projects, through the portions that you can allocate towards military veterans. See, so to me, that's one of the major keys in solving the homeless problem, is making the homeless problem the homeless veteran problem, because this is a problem that we have now. If you take half of the budget of the United States going into the military, and then the other half for all of the other economic problems you're dealing with, what percentage you think that they're going to allocate for the homeless? And see, that's what we're dealing with now, as the economy grows and et cetera like that. And we know from working in the Skid Row area, we've seen how the homeless population grow. That's covered with tents and all that kind of stuff now. Yeah, so that's what I meant by that first portion of that. And we emphasize that in the play too.
Okay. Yeah, and also, yesterday was Veterans Day, and I want to say thank you for your service, and let people know about when you first got enlisted and how long you were in the service.
Yeah, I was 69 to 71. I was in the Marines, and not only that, my family is basically military. My brothers, all of that. Out of 7 males and 2 females, 6 of us served in the military and received honorable discharge. 2 in the Air Force, 3 in the Army, and I served in the Marines. And I can look back now, and see, all of the benefits that's so helpful to veterans and their families and their children, after you come out of the military, being able to send them to school and possibly use your benefits to get a house, et cetera, and all that kind of stuff. So there's some great benefits to being a veteran. And this is why it's so important to make these veterans that's out here homeless aware of all of the benefits that they have and how to connect them to it.
Okay, yes. And I just had one of my good friends named Michael Crabb. He came out here from Arkansas. He was in Northern California. He came out here to visit me and everything. So I told him I might, if he decided to come back or whatever, and I want to introduce y'all two together.
Yes, it's wonderful. Yeah. Would love it.
You're right. Yeah. And you mentioned Skid Row earlier, and I know me and you both are familiar with Skid Row. And I was going to ask you, what do you think is the key to changing the dynamics of Skid Row?
The key to me in changing the dynamics of Skid Row, when I look and I think about some of the potential leaders, community activists that we lost down there, like General Jeff and Kevin Michael Key, et cetera, Wendell, Blasingame, he just passed recently, and a few others. And it made me think that what we should start doing now in that Skid Row area, we just had an election where they voted De Leon out and the other young lady come in to take over the district, and that's District 14, I think it is.
Right.
But what we should be doing, and we should start doing it now, we should be grooming, because we know the next election coming up next couple of years, 4 years or whatever, but we should be picking out potential community leaders that we can groom, and run them for the council seat coming up. So you running them, develop a platform, how we want Skid Row to look, and run them we should have 2 or 3 people down there that we're grooming to take over that seat. And at the same time, we're doing voter registration education with the community residents down there. Try to figure out a way how we can translate a lot of the tent dwellers, down there in Skid Row to voters, to educating them, how making them aware of the process, and I think we should start doing that immediately. Male or female, we should look for these potentially skilled individuals down there. I don't care where they come from, whether they part of the service providers or the community activists or whatever like that. We should have 2 or 3 of them. See? And then at the same time, we should try to continue what General Jeff and Kevin Michael Key was doing by being, and Wendell Blassingame, by being part of the D-Link Downtown Neighborhood Council. We should make our voice strong there. We need to unify all of these elements so Skid Row can be ruled from the inside instead of the outside.
Okay. Well, I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think. So I want to ask you about, like, with the African Americans. How do you feel about African Americans being joining the military? Do you think that's a great idea?
I think it's very important for African Americans to understand that when you go all the way back to the Civil War, if the African American slaves that fought in the Civil War, it wasn't a situation where white people fought to fight to free the African Americans, fought for themselves. That's what turned the Civil war around, when the African American was allowed to fight for their own freedom. Then they defeated the Democratic Confederacy down there. And let me just read something real quick. And we should always keep this in mind. This is what Abraham Lincoln said when they conquered Richmond, which was the capital of the Confederacy. And this was the basic end of the Civil War, when they captured. Got a horn in the background running. I know you can hear that.
Yeah.
But when Abraham Lincoln, he came to Richmond, and when he came to Richmond, all of these slaves and blacks and all like that, they ran up to him as if he was God and all like that. Here's what Lincoln said. He said, in reference to you, colored people, let me say God has made you free. Although you have been deprived of your God-given rights by your so-called masters, you are now as free as I am. And if those that claim to be your superiors do not know that you are free, take your sword and your bayonets and teach them that you are. For God created men free, given to each the same rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So what he was saying, he's basically saying what we're talking about now. You, anybody come, you as free as anybody else now. He didn't say nothing about no nonviolent marches and all that kind of stuff. He said, you just got through fighting in this Civil War. Anybody that challenged your freedom, he didn't say get on your knees and beg God and all that kind of stuff. He made it clear. You got weapons in your hand now, So this is why it's so important for African Americans, descendants of the chattel slaves of America, to be in the military. You know,
Okay.
you want to learn what the other people, the other ethnic groups is learning. You want to learn how to protect your community. You want to learn how to use weapons. You know, all of this, what they talked about, and I think Dr. King realized this in the latter part of his life because he moved away from that concept of nonviolence, all of that kind of stuff, you know, that didn't make sense in a violent society when you're trying to fight for your freedom. So this is why we should be part of the military. You know, not only that, when I was coming up, they had a situation where young African American or young man would get into trouble, and the judge would tell him, okay, I'm gonna give you 10 years in prison, or you can join the military. See? And that changed a lot of these young men's lives, you know, because what is the future to be really real about? Ain't no future in gangbanging, you know, whether you Latino, Black, or Crip, Blood, all that other stuff. Ain't no future in that. You're destroying your community instead of building up your community where all of these outside people continue to get wealthy and wealthy, you know. So, yeah, so the military should be an option for a lot of our young men and stuff, especially from an economic point of view, you know, instead of getting caught up with the ghetto life of selling drugs and gangbanging, et cetera, like that.
Right. And that's why I feel our community needs a new mindset change. And you know, I know it's gonna be difficult and hard, because even like for myself, I know it and I'm working on it and it's difficult. So somebody who's not even open to it, it's gonna be, you know, pretty hard. And also you're talking about people funding off of it. Well, what do you think about should African Americans be part of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party? What do you think about that, especially
Well,
since the last election went down?
yeah. See, the African American descendants of the chattel slaves of America, or whatever term they want to use, should be part of neither one, the Democratic or the Republican Party. The African Americans should register as independent. And then until things change, you know, until you develop enough power to either retake the Republican Party back, I'm going to explain that in a minute, or develop a third party, you know, you vote as independent and then try to move as a block, a group, and support whichever of these two parties have the best platform for the community, you know. But as far as registering to be in a Democratic and a Republican, no, that's part of the political game. Because when you think about the history of these parties, and you go all the way back to Thomas Jefferson, right? And when Thomas Jefferson started this party, it was called the Democratic Republican Party. One party.
Oh,
And
okay.
they split because of the what was happening with slavery. You know, the disagreement over slavery is what split them into two. And then the Democrats, you know, fought wholly to keep slavery because of the economic benefits of it, you know, was based on the whole Confederacy, the whole Southern Confederacy in the United States as a whole was based upon the economic concept of slavery, that free labor and all that kind of stuff. But what happened is that after the Civil War, when the Democrats, the Confederacy lost, and the Republicans came in, and we had the 13, 14, 15 Amendment that ended slavery, made Black citizens and gave them the right to vote. We was in power for about 10 years until the Confederacy once again rose up and took power back from Blacks in the end of Reconstruction. But what we must understand is when they took Reconstruction, Black still was part of the Republican Party of Lincoln, all the way up until 1927. After the 27 flood, you had things that happened, promises that was broken, and blacks ended up leaving the Republican Party and getting involved with the Democratic Party, supporting Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was up there for 16 years. That's how we got involved with the Democrats. See, but what we forget is that coming up to school desegregation, coming up to the case Brown versus the Board of Education, 1954, that brought in, that broke Supreme Court decision that broke down the school desegregation. 2 years prior to that, the Sovereignty Commission that they had in the South and all that kind of stuff like that, they come up with a 4-point plan, which was one of the portions of their plan in 1952, because they know school desegregation was coming up with this case. Their plan was to move white Southerners from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party. And that's when it happened right there. They moved over there. They had a 4-point plan, which was to move a huge amount of the Black population out of the South. They accomplished that. They set up private schools, which they have today. We still basically segregated in relationship to that. So that's what I meant. And that's what we have to keep in mind in relationship to that particular situation, understanding that history, staying away from the trick bag that they got us in, thinking that we can either be involved with the Republicans or the Democrats, without realizing that the Republicans that you see today made the switch in 1952 to become the Republicans, because they are the same. They got the same history. If you trace them back, you're going to go all the way back to the Civil War, all the way back to the Confederacy, and all the way back to slavery as an economic concept that supported it.
Okay. I'll tell you what, we need you to be the one giving out the history class. Yeah, we're going to work on that. So I'm going to ask you about this. What is the status of the Black church in its relationship to solving the homeless problem? And churches being involved?
Yeah, the Black church has really, really dropped the ball all over. And see, when I talk about, when we say the Black church, I'm not just talking about Christianity. When we're talking about all three of these major religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And what they have allowed to happen is that they have allowed the commercial interests, especially here in Los Angeles, to be at the forefront of making all of the decisions about the funds for the homeless situation, and then they just ride behind. Remember, we were doing an interview with Reverend Cecil Murray.
Yeah.
Right? I think he passed last year, long-time minister here in LA. And I asked him that question. And he is probably the only person that gave me a sensible answer about approach to solving the homeless problem. He said that all of these religious institutions, whether they Christian, Judaism, Islam, or whatever, should have a homeless component, no matter how small or how large they is. That should be part of that structure, in terms of dealing with that, because you got all of these churches and religious institutions out here. Now imagine if you had, if it's even a small storefront church, you can still have a component that raises resources if you're just dealing with one or two people that you get out of, help them in relationship to their economic situation. Because that's at the bottom of the homeless problem. The technology, the way technology has switched so quick that we moved the internet, when that came on, they put so many people out of job because they hadn't trained a population, so a lot of people got left behind in that. And then before the economy can recover and deal with the internet, then AI come along.
Right.
Artificial intelligence come along and all that kind of stuff like that. And if you think the internet put a lot of untrained people out of jobs or move them from the mid-level to that struggling bottom homeless level, you would see what AI do. Because see, the power structure, is using all of this intellectual information, this AI coming in, and look at what they're doing with it. Is they using AI to heal diseases or to make things better? Or is they using AI for the military things like what we see happening all over the world today to kill people? See? So let's go on there in relationship to that.
Well, that's one reason that I'm working on the out-the-box economics part of things. That's my part of the battle to fight, because I see now when I was homeless, I kept thinking, I don't care if you're a billionaire, everybody looking for a way to make more money. So, so I already knew things were changing, because when I started messing with the crypto in 2020, trying to figure it out, and then I found Mr. Brandon Ivy, who's a crypto educator, so now I'm up under him. And then also with the AI, I'm dibbling and dabbling in that. And then you're gonna have like I be paying attention to all the different Zooms. You're gonna have where they're gonna have a Zoom type platform set up to where you can like put on the shades and you'll be in a room on video. Your full body be. So they got a lot of stuff coming. And but one thing is they're gonna take away jobs, but at the same time, they're gonna create new jobs. So that's where we got to hurry up and jump in now and start, learning about all this stuff that's ready to happen. If not like this, now I really do see it. It's going to be the very, very rich or the very, very poor.
Yeah.
I see what they mean now by the middle class, because if people don't adapt to it, it's going to make everybody go backwards.
Yeah.
Quicker, because AI is happening quicker.
Yeah. And then we see, it's very important to understand what happened in this last election, that allowed Donald Trump to become president again. See, and the bottom line is that the choice was taken away from the community by the Democratic Party, the Biden, the Harris, etc., like that. See, the key thing, in 1954, George G.M. James wrote a very important book. And he was an African American. He was a descendant of the chattel slaves of America.
Okay.
And in that book, that book was called Stolen Legacy, was the name of that book. And the latter part of that book, he spent almost a chapter pointing out to the descendants of the chattel slaves of America why it was so important to get these Greek organizations out of your community and out of these Black schools. See, and he lost his life for that. It's a great book, worth reading. He laid it out. Is that we cannot have these people that's involved with what they call the Divine Nine providing leadership for the descendants of the chattel slaves of America, especially for the church, for those that call themselves Christians. Why? Because when you study history, you read some of the works like Flavius Josephus, The Jewish Wars, or the iniquities of the Jews, you find out that Jesus and his followers and John the Baptist and all of them, the major enemies that they had was the Greeks. They fought against the Greeks. He come out of the Hasmoneans, the Maccabees, and etc. like that. And their whole war was against the Greek and Greek society and all of that they call Hellenism. And now when you look at our community, until we deal with that, especially the church, especially the ministers in the church, you have allowed all of your major cities and stuff that we have today, majority of Black cities and the large cities like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, you have allowed what he talked about with all of these Greek organizations that they call the Divine Nine to raise to the top and to be mayor of these cities. See, Black community, you gotta deal with that reality. This is what caused you to lose this election that you just had. And if we live in the information age, how come we don't know about the book, Stolen Legacy? How come we ain't teaching our kids about that? And then how come the book that I read from Black Reconstruction by Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois that explains this should be next to the Bible in all of our communities? How come we don't know about that? How come we don't know what Abraham Lincoln told the Black communities and stuff like that? And then how did we transition from what Abraham Lincoln said about taking your weapons and fighting for all of these people that tried to take you back to slavery? See, we got to deal with that. See, and that's what I mean about when we look at the community, Skid Row, we got to be real about Skid Row. Skid Row is a Black community. So we got to make it a real Black. When I say a real Black African-American community, that means you're controlling the resources in your community. You're controlling the jobs, all of the, what corporations come down there, the contracts and stuff like that. You can't do that when you depend upon these outsiders that become city councils for a few years, and then they hustle and get all of their money, and then when they get caught, they go to prison, and that gap is there. See, you got to develop your own, what I mentioned earlier. You got to develop your own leaders there, and we should be doing it right now, getting ready for that next election and building up support, finances, and all that kind of stuff for people down there, that's going to become the next city council instead of people that you don't even know from the outside, deciding everything that's happening in Skid Row. See?
Yeah, I feel that. I can agree with that. And also, but one of the main things and how they get it is reason it's all this information, but we too distracted with some petty information to pay attention to the real and accurate information that can help us and everything. Yeah. But we got to work toward, doing something, to get people's attention and get them focused and everything.
Yeah.
So, you got anything else you want to add?
I want to make for the performance coming up.
Yes.
What I mentioned earlier, Soldier to
Soldier. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to make at least 10 tickets available to the network that we're working on.
Okay.
So you can pass that information out for people that want to give out a couple tickets for the shows and what they're doing, etc.
Okay.
Like that. Yeah, I'll make 10 tickets available for that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let Miss Alicia
Come
know.
check us out, the door up in Culver City on Venice Boulevard.
Okay, now I'm gonna say it one more again. I think I might interrupt you. Tell them again.
Yeah, it's the Blue Door, which is on what's the address? It's in Culver City.
Culver City, the Blue Door.
9600 of Venice Boulevard. We'll be there. We'll open this Friday at 8 o'clock. And we're running 2 weeks, all the way up until Sunday, November the 24th. We'll be over there.
Okay, all right, cool. And I have everything, the information in the description, so everybody can see it and get ready to go. Because I know I'll be there. I'll probably be seeing you on Friday.
Okay. And I'll get you all of the information, all of the basic information.
Okay, all right, that's cool. All right, y'all, there you had it. Mr. Melvin Ishmael Johnson today here on the Bobby Buck Show. And we out. Peace.
A Bobby Buck promotion.
Thanks for attending the Bobby Buck Show.